Hey, this is Marc Goldberg from Marc Vlogs Watches, and today we're going to have a discussion about the value of watches. Watch snobbery, watch brands, do they really count? Does the brand of a watch really influence your satisfaction with what you're wearing on your wrist? And speaking of what you're wearing on your wrist, let's take a look at what I'm wearing on my wrist right now with a quick wristwatch check. And here it is, ladies and gentlemen. This is the perfect illustration of what we're going to talk about today, because this, my friends, is a G-Shock. Now, those of you who are really familiar with my channel know that I have a pet name for this watch, and it is the Toilet Oak. Why? Because if you look at it really quickly and then you look away, it almost looks like a Royal Oak. Let me drop a picture of that watch in here right now. So the Royal Oak versus the G-Shock, that's not exactly the topic of our video today, but you know, we're in the right area, we're in the right ballpark. So today I've got three watches here that I want to talk to you about primarily. Of course, one is this G-Shock. This one, I forget the reference number. I'll put it in here in the titles, and I have discussed this watch before. You might look in my, I'll tell you what, in the description, I'll stick a link to a video that I made about this. This actually is a very cool watch if you're working with your hands, traveling, that kind of thing, trying to avoid the glare. Okay, so this is the G-Shock. Value of this watch, $235. That's what I paid for it on eBay. We're gonna go over a little bit of its features and differences after we kind of get through what else we're going to be looking at. But here we have a watch that costs around $235, okay? Now, next on the hit parade is a ball watch. Again, for fans of the channel, you know that I have had two ball watches, and I'm down to one. I'm back down to one ball, guys, because I did sell the ball diver, the Navy Experimental Diving Unit chronograph. I sold that one, and what I have here, boy, I got to pay more attention to my lighting, I guess, but we're having glare issues. But what this is this is a ball world timer, has world time function. So there is a bunch of cities around the rings representing 24 different time zones. And then there is a rotating inner ring. You see the white part clearly, but the black or dark part represents the cities that are in night. And that rotates once every 24 hours. So at a glance, you can see the local time on the hands, and then in military or 24-hour time, you can read off the time in all those different cities. And it also has a rotating dive bezel, and it has the day and the date. So there is a lot going on here, and we're gonna come back and talk about this in a little bit more detail shortly. But value, what did I pay for this watch? I ordered this one on pre-order from Ball. If you get on Ball's mailing list, they're constantly sending you pre-order opportunities. And this one cost me $1,250. Although I think if you look for it retail now, it's more along the lines of $2,200, $2,400. I think $2,400. Okay. Anyway, but I personally have $1,250 locked up in this. And now we come to the heavy hitter of what I've brought out for you to see. This is the Rolex. This is the Rolex Deep Sea Sea Dweller. I don't know if in this lighting, if you're going to be able to catch the red line of text there. At the bottom of the dial at 6 o'clock, you'll notice several lines of text. The top one is in red, and it says Sea Dweller. Rolex collectors love that. This is what you would call the Mark II dial, in the sense that down at 6 o'clock between Swiss and Made, there is a tiny little Rolex crown. I'm not discussing the etched crown that you find on a lot of laser etched crown that you find on the Rolex Sapphires. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about an actual crown printed or applied to the dial. Tell you what, I'm going to go ahead and drop in a copy of a picture of the Mark I dial and then of the Mark II dial, which is the one this has. Same exact watch, but there was a dial change made between 2017 and 2018. As we zoom in on the dial, you'll see the crown between Swiss and Made. This is the Mark II dial. On the Mark I dial, the first iteration, that crown wasn't there. But cost factor, this watch retails for, I want to say, $12,100, okay? and that's what I paid for it. So here you're looking at a $12,000 watch. Here you're looking at a $1,200 watch with the ball. Let me not clink them together or I will get nasty comments from you guys that I don't take good care of my stuff, and I do try. And here we have a $235 G-Shock. They do different sorts of things, but the thing that I really want to talk to you a little bit about in this video is, listen, this thing, I could buy like, 25 of these for the price of this. And really the question is, does this Rolex make me 25 times happier than this G-Shock? And I'm going to cut to the chase. I'm going to give you a more complicated answer in a moment, but the short answer is no. No, this thing does not make me 25 less times happy than this, nor the other way around. So, okay, my math might be a little off, but you know what I'm saying. 12 grand, 250 bucks. All right. What are the elements that make you happy with a watch? And there are numerous elements, and they go from things like brand snobbery to built for purpose, and what is the purpose of that watch? And then it goes to things like personal taste. The first thing I want to talk about is the purpose of the watch. So although, listen, if the building was on fire and I had to run in and save the dogs and one of these watches, naturally I'm going to save the Rolex. Okay, so let's just get that out of the way also. Of course, just on a value prop basis, I'm saving this one first. Okay, but the reality of it is, they all have their purpose and they all make me happy. And the question is, does one of them make me a heck of a lot happier than the others? So let's talk about purpose. I'm a dog trainer, as you can see and as you might know from my channel. And what this means is that I'm constantly, putting dogs into and taking dogs out of kennels, crates, and actual walk-in kennels. Most of these things are made out of metal, which means that my watches are passing in and out of doorways, narrow openings and doorways with constancy, okay? So I'm not just like sitting at a desk typing. I'm also an author. By the way, shameless plug, here is a copy of my book. You can find Let Dogs Be Dogs on Amazon.com, BarnesandNoble.com, and pretty much in bookstores everywhere. And I'll put a link to my book in the description. If you're interested in dogs, you should read Let Dogs Be Dogs by Marc Goldberg and the Monks of New Ski. Okay, but when I'm writing, I don't care what I'm wearing. I can wear a good watch. Okay, I'm lying right now. Why am I doing this? Let me tell you, I know I've deviated off into another area here, squirrel. But the reality is when I'm writing, my clasp is resting on the computer or on the desk so much, and I don't like swirlies. So when I'm writing on the computer, I tend to take off whatever watch I'm wearing and set it aside. But most of the time, if I'm doing white collar stuff, I don't care what I'm wearing. But I'm a middle-aged, blue-collar, geriatric worker who reaches into metal kennels all the time. This watch makes me very happy to work in. I'm going to tell you the properties about it that I really like. First of all, I dropped it a heck of a lot of times in, that's another video. I'll put that in the description too. But I did a drop test on this watch, and I would never do that with this one. I would be so afraid that I would shatter the crystal, ding and dent, my watch. I do not like to damage my Rolexes. Okay. But this is a purpose-built watch. It's a G-Shock. It is built to take a lot of punishment, and it really can. So when I am working, nothing makes me happier than to put this particular watch on. Now, it has functions that I really appreciate. And that's another point. It's not just like buy any G-Shock and it's going to make you as happy as any Rolex. In fact, there are some Rolexes that I don't even like. But when we take a look at this, what you can see is that the hands showing right now 1 o'clock. They are super easy and visible to read against that darker background. And you can see that the subdials are light color background with positive black numbers and letters. That makes those subdials super easy for me to read at a glance. And I had a G-Shock prior, which the subdials were the reverse, which is to say that the background was dark and the letters and numbers were light, and that was really hard for these old eyes to read. This I can capture at a glance, okay? So I really like that function. And then the only thing that this watch is missing that usually I require in a watch to make me super happy is a fidget spinner, which is a movable bezel. And it doesn't have that, but it does make up for it in the sense that it has something for me to play with and For that, it's that light button, which you have right here. So if you want to know about the functions of this watch, well, check out the video I made on it. My purpose here is just to explain to you, this is a watch that you can beat up. It has no crown, okay? Every time I shower with any other normal kind of a automatic watch, the first thing I do before stepping into the shower or getting into water is I make sure, I'm like obsessively OCD checking my crowns to be sure that they are closed and I'm not jumping into the shower, bathtub, hot tub, anything like that with an open crown. Easiest way to damage your watch. This guy here has no crown, okay? So if you're going to some part of the world where you are worried about, leaving your Rolex in your sock so you don't take it into the ocean, well, you take this right into the ocean. You cannot get water in this thing. You could drop this thing from 10 meters and not hurt it, and I have. Now, I don't like the plastic G-Shocks, so I got one that is almost all metal. The band is metal, the clasp is metal, the whole body of the watch is metal, except for the sandwich part in the middle. They make that in metal too, by the way, but that takes that would take this watch from like $235 watch up to like I think it's around $1,000 to get the all stainless steel one. And personally, I think that's too much for a G-Shock. Also, this has Worldtime function, so you can set these subdials to do all kinds of things for you, and one of them that you can do is set it to another time zone. And then it's got lots of bells and whistles. You can push a couple of buttons when you go traveling, and it'll swap your home city and your away city. This watch, I'm a little emotional about it, guys. What can I tell you? You are not going to have more fun anywhere for $235. So this watch makes me very happy in a way that this one does not when I'm working, because this is built to a specific purpose, which is knock the hell out of it and don't worry about a thing. This thing is built to go down to 4,000 meters, or something like that. This is built for a lot of depth rating. So it is purpose-built in the sense that it is a dive watch, right? However, let's be honest. Nobody wears a Rolex when diving. Nobody even wears a dive watch when diving. I'm not even sure that that's legal to do anymore. What you really require is a dive computer, which has so much more information and is a much safer piece of equipment to take diving. This is a luxury item. This is a working item. Luxury work, okay? And there's nothing in between these two watches until we get to this guy here. Is ball watch a luxury item? It depends who you ask. I'm gonna say yes. This is Swiss made. It's got a Swiss movement. It's an ETA movement with a lot of modifications on there. I'm sure some of it was built in China, but it says Swiss made on the dial, and Switzerland allows for a certain percentage of non-Swiss labor or value. But let's face it, guys, to the average ordinary person, spending, $1,200 to $2,400, which is what this watch costs, that's a heck of a lot of money. I mean, that's a lot of money. For tons of people, that's a rent payment or a mortgage payment. It's a couple of car payments. So, of course, this is a luxury watch. Now, to those of you who are sitting on a bunch of Pateks, well, okay, I know this is small potatoes to you, but, to normal people, this is a really expensive watch. Now, I can wear it working because I don't worry so much about dinging it compared to this one. I will never wear this when I'm working, okay? I will prefer the G-Shock if I'm working hard with like a lot going on. I will definitely wear the ball if it's a light work day. Oh, and I told you all about the Worldtime function, but see, I really like a fidget spinner. This crown here is the normal crown that allows you to set the day, the date, the time, and when you're setting the time, you're messing with the Worldtime. If we undo the second crown though, let me see if this will show up on camera. Yeah, it's showing up. You see how I'm spinning the outer dial there? This is what's called a rotating dive bezel. Now, because this locks down, it does not have to be unidirectional, it can be bidirectional. Because if you're using it for a timing function, somewhere on here, let me find it, right here, there's an arrow. Right there, there's an arrow, and you can align that arrow with the minute hand. Let me do that now. You can align that arrow with the minute hand, and then now you're using it to count down elapsed time, although you would want to screw down that crown because water, right? Water, dust, dirt, that kind of stuff. So right now, I'm not using the Worldtime function. I'm using the dive timer function. Guys, I find that incredibly handy. You throw a pizza in the oven, you put a steak on the grill, you start a business meeting, you call your mother. There's a lot that you can do with the dive bezel. So I think that that is probably the single most useful complication that literally you can get on a watch, and it's a physical complication. It doesn't affect the movement. Okay, so also this watch is filled with tritium tubes. So I will put a picture of what it looks like at night or when you go to the movies, and it does not need to be charged. You do not need to expose it to sunlight. It has little gas tubes in it that will glow for anywhere between 12 and 20 years. There's a little bit of disagreement, but at least a decade of service before it needs to be replaced. And so this is the ideal watch if you sleep in a watch, or you're going out at night, or you want to keep an eye on what time it is at the movies. Then this is really the ideal watch. Yeah, this has the light button, but if you push that button in the middle of the night, there it is. Yeah, if you push that button in the middle of the night, I don't know if you can tell on camera, but it's strong. It's strong enough to actually bother your eyes in the movie theater or your neighbors. So this is a soft but very legible glow, and I love this thing. Okay, I love it. Now, I've already told you, this of all of them, this is by far, it's the finest watch. But I'm a little careful when I wear it. I do have love for it. This has a couple of things that the other two watches don't have. It doesn't have the risk factor, so I don't, I can't risk it. I feel like I got to be more careful with it. Now, guys, I know before you start writing me nasty comments, I know this is a robust, purpose-built watch. I also know we're talking about first world problems here. I get all of that, but this is the world that, we watch collectors are living in right now. I'm a watch nut. I can't help this. But although that this is a robust, purpose-built watch, it's a $12,000 luxury collector's item. So I'll be honest with you, there's a limit to how much beating I want to give it. So I'm careful with it. Now that being said, can you hear? Oh God, that's gorgeous. This has the finest bezel action you're gonna find on a watch. You wanna get even close to something that will give you this level of satisfaction, in my personal opinion, you need to go to a Tudor Pelagos or a Tudor Black Bay. The feel and look of them is extremely different, but the quality is there. This is just something else. I'm going to reset the bezel so I don't have a bezel fail. Otherwise, I'll hear about that in the comments too. Okay. Does this glow in the dark? It does. It just doesn't flash strong like this G-Shock, and it doesn't glow for 10 years without a charge like this ball watch. But if you expose this, charge it up with sunlight, listen, by the end of 8 hours, it's going to be really dim and you're going to have to really struggle to see it, but you'll sort of know what time it is. So it meets its function, let's just say. Now that being said, it's also got a certain, I'm going to be honest about this, guys, there's a snob appeal that comes along with owning a Rolex. And there's a greater snob appeal than normal that comes along with owning a rare or difficult to acquire Rolex. And it's even greater yet in the sense that this is not only reminiscent of the Rolex Submariner, but in fact, this is a Rolex Submariner killer. It's a Rolex Submariner on steroids. This is a 43 millimeter watch, whereas the Submariner is only 40 millimeters. I forget the thickness here. I'll drop it in, but it's substantially thicker. I want to say it's like maybe 15 millimeters. So it's substantially thicker, beefier than the Submariner. There is more wrist presence from this watch than you're going to get from the beloved icon of the range, which is the Rolex Submariner. And you know what you get for that? You get bragging rights. You got a Submariner? Nice. I'll see your Submariner and I'll raise you a 43 millimeter Redline 50th anniversary Sea Dweller. Should that be important? No, we're grown men. It should not be important. Is it stupid? Yes, it's stupid. But am I going to confess that it's a factor? Listen, I'm here to bare my soul so you don't have to bare yours. I'm here to suffer for your sins. The reality is that this watch gives me more pleasure than it should. This is a stupid way to spend $12,000, to be honest with you. If you're really thinking in terms of investment, yeah, but Mark, it'll be a great investment. if listen, you don't have to be a genius to know that $12,000 put into any sort of a mutual fund that shoots the market, like an S&P 500 index fund, or a Dow Jones Industrial Fund, or a large cap or a medium cap fund, you know, is going to produce way better than what this will sitting in my safe, or, you know, getting a little nicks on my wrist, and then 10, 20 years from now my kids can, you know, try and sell it, and they'll get more than I paid, more than likely. But they probably will be cursing me for not having put that money into a mutual fund so that it could have grown more. So we have 3 watches here, and they all give me great pleasure. Strictly from the financial sense, you know, between these 3 guys, I'm running back into the building to grab the Rolex. But I'm not giving up any of the 3. I use each of them for different things. They bring me, each of them, I would say, to be very literal about this, they bring me equal pleasure. And there are a lot of collectors who are so snooty and so snobby about what they like and don't like that they wouldn't, that these 2 watches here, they would never wear them if they owned something like this. They would never take this off. These guys would never come out of the watch box. They probably would have never even gotten in the watch box. But we all have our way of approaching our collecting journey, our horological journey. And what I'm going to tell you right now is 12 grand, 1 grand, a quarter of a grand, 250 bucks. I love each of these watches. I love them in a different way. And just on the pure sort of like satisfaction level, I can't choose between them. They appeal to me equally, which is crazy. So I say it's crazy because the money is so vastly different. The collectability, the difficulty in acquiring, very, very hard to get unless you go to the gray market. At the dealer, ooh, really hard to get. And I got this at an authorized dealer along with this Rolex hat. These guys here, you know, eBay. You can get them on the flea. If you're in Australia, you can get them on Gumtree. But I love them all. So tell me in the comments, does that make me crazy? Or am I just courageous because I trust my own journey, I trust my own opinions? You know, I don't know. I think maybe there's a little element of insanity involved in this. You know, I'm gonna wrap up on this. It's no coincidence that in my intro, it says, is it a hobby or is it an illness? Because it's a little of both. Well, this is Goldberg with a bunch of watches that I truly love, that all of them make me happy, vastly different prices, but the happiness level equal. Goldberg, peace out.
Paint the sky your favorite color.